Good day, everyone, and welcome again to our IELTS lessons. Now, in today's lesson, IELTS Advanced Course, Lesson 14, we will be reviewing IELTS Speaking Part 2 and Listening. Now, for Speaking Part 2, which is also called the Individual Long Term, we're going to describe a well-known building in our country or in your country. Now, in this exercise, we should say the location of the building, its function, like is it a commercial building, a mall, a museum, a place for religious activity, etc. And how does people regard this place? And we have to explain why we like this building. Okay. Now, first, we have to review that the IELTS speaking part 2 is about telling a good story. Therefore, a good story must have a natural opening, not memorized, and the points are stated in any order. And we can have a conclusion which is optional. Again, as I've said in our previous lessons, a conclusion is done when we reach 2 minutes. It is when the examiner stops us and we conclude our answer with 1 to 2 sentences only. Okay. Before we move on to answering the task in today's IELTS speaking exercise, we must first review some of the useful words and phrases to describe old buildings. So we have here words, numbers 1 to 15. Okay. Now the first word that we need to learn today is the word feature. So what does feature mean? This means a distinctive aspect of something. Something can be anything, a phone, a television, or even a building. When we buy a new phone, for example, we will check first its features such as its camera, music, etc. Now, using this word to describe a building, we can say one of the distinctive features of old churches in the Philippines is that they're made of stones. Okay. And the next word that we need to study here is the word landmark, which means a building or a place that is easily recognized. An example of this is that you'll know when you reach Hattin City, that is in Vietnam, if you'll see its landmark, which is the Vincom Plaza. Okay, now when you ask for directions and you do not know exactly where the location is, I think you'd better ask for a landmark. Next is the word heritage. It is a noun which means a property that descends to an heir. And a clear example to this is that we're not going to sell our grandparents' house because it is an ancestral heritage. Another example to this is that many of the old buildings in our city are cultural heritage. They have played a significant part in our history. Next is a ruin. A ruin is a part of something that remains after it has been severely damaged or weakened. The most famous ruins in Greece, for example, is the Acropolis, which was preserved from the ancient world. In our cities, for example, maybe both in the Philippines and in Vietnam, we actually can find several ruins that are situated mostly in cultural heritage sites. Alright. And another word which we can use in describing old buildings is the word elegant. It is an adjective which means stylish in appearance. An example sentence to this is traditional buildings were elegant, unlike the buildings of today, which are minimalist in appearance. Well, in my city, as another example, there is this what we call the Taoist temple, and it shows an elegant outlook. Next word that we need to study is the word futuristic, which means having a modern technology or design. As we can see, if you observe today's skyscrapers within that sit within the megacities are futuristic. So these tall buildings used a cutting-edge technology. Next is the word eye-catching. It is an adjective which means immediately appealing or noticeable. In other words, they are visually attractive. Now, one example to this are the paintings of the ceilings in many old basilicas or churches in the Philippines. An exemplary eye-catching painting on the ceiling is in the Sistine Chapel, whose magnificent artwork of Michelangelo. Okay, if you have seen that, I think I would say it is an eye-catching painting on the ceiling. Now, something that is iconic, if you might ask, is relating to a famous thing that represents something of importance or value. In my city, for example, there is this Magellan's Cross, which is an iconic object from the Spanish colonization in the Philippines. Again, this word iconic can also be used to describe an iconic figure or image, just like the Christian cross. Alright? Now the next word here is that we can use is the word state of the art. It is an adjective, it is a hyphenated adjective, which means having the latest techniques or equipment. Now we can see that all car industries today use state-of-the-art technology. Well, another good example for this word is skyscrapers in major cities are equipped with the state-of-the-art facilities and amenities. Okay. Now we have another word here, which is an eyesore. An eyesore actually is quite opposite to the word eye-catching, because this word eyesore is a thing that is very ugly, especially building that disfigures landscape. Alright? Now if we happen to see such old buildings and apartments in megacities, they are eyesores. That means they have to be demolished. I mean, that's why they have to be demolished and have to be replaced with modern ones. Right. Now today, since we have covered all the useful words and phrases to talk about buildings, not only old buildings, but to talk about famous buildings or buildings in our country. Now let's move on to practice speaking part 2. And the cue card here asks us to talk about a famous or well-known building in our country that you like. Now you should say where this building is, what the function of the building is. So as I've said a while ago, that function here means like, is it used as is it a historical building? Is it a mall? Is it a shopping mall? Is it a residential building? Is it a commercial building? All right, so you have to think what the function of the building is. Now, what people think about the building, and we have to explain why we like this building. Okay, now as we have been explaining in our previous lessons, that our main goal here in speaking part 2 is to tell a good story. All right, that is if we are at the advanced level and we have adequate grammar and pronunciation, then we can move on to honing our fluency and our vocabulary. All right, now when we tell a story to someone, we don't sound monotonous. All right, monotonous means we don't sound like a robot, which is why we shouldn't use memorized phrases that we see on the internet, because the examiner can actually identify the memorized phrases we use, like I'm going to talk about, today I'm going to describe to you about. Well, basically these phrases just don't seem to be natural, and it doesn't seem that you are engaging in a more conversational way. So after that, after we have a natural opening, we have to elaborate the points in the cue card, and by doing this we can use the window method. In this practice test, for example, we make, the note-taking part, we make like a window, and each quadrant we write the keywords in the cue card first. Just like this, we write the word where, then on the right is the word function, at the bottom left is a keyword people think, at the bottom right is a keyword why like. Again, we have to write this first on top like a window, and after that, after we write the keywords, now we can move on to writing our outline. Okay, and without the reason why we have to write these first is that with some examiners actually might take the cue card, and without the cue card you may not be able to, or you may not have a chance to remember the given task. Okay, so after that we write the notes, or we take notes, and after we take notes we have to process the answer in our mind so that we can have a more natural way of telling a story. Okay, so let's have an example answer here to this task. And the example answer here says, alright, one of the megacities in the Philippines is Cebu, and its distinctive features include the futuristic and massive shopping malls, including the most well-known one, which is the SM City Cebu. This place has a modern and futuristic structural design from both the outside and the inside, and it has multi-purpose services that do not only include a shopping mall, but also serves people who want to have fun, dine, and relax. Most people who I went with, like my friends and family, thought this place is very convenient for people to spend time together because of its easy access to transportation, public and private. It also has an affordable cost, and it has more ways to be entertained and relaxed for all people of all ages and walks of life. I've been visiting this place since I was little until I went to university and land a job. Now, because of this, I have memorable experiences about visiting this place, and that is why I still prefer to come and visit SM City whenever I want to relax, invite my friends to hang out, or go shopping. Okay, so as you can see in the introduction, the introduction is very natural. It doesn't say, I'm going to talk about, I'd like to describe to you about, I'm going to share to you about. Those are just memorized introductions. And when you tell a good story to your friend, alright, well, you may not always say, hey, I'm going to talk about my famous building. Or you won't say, hey, I'd like to share to you about like this. So you don't necessarily have to do that when you naturally open a conversation to your friend. All right, so again, opening a conversation must again be natural. Okay, now I'd like you to do on your own, and I'd like you to tell me a story about the famous building that you like, which is famous in your country. And remember our key approach, which is to tell a good story. Okay, and after this I'd like you to do the listening practice tests, okay, which I sent to you in your respective email. All right. So if you want to keep updated with the new lessons and cover the entire course, you can click like and subscribe button, and of course hit notifications. Right, so I'd like to see you again in our next lesson. Study well and study smart and study every day. Okay, so always remember that progress is progress, no matter how small. So appreciate the progress of doing few minutes or learning a few minutes a day. All right, see you and have a nice day.